Investigators revealing the alleged shooter is a 15-year-old girl who was a student at Abundant Life Christian School. Police say she died by suicide after killing a classmate and a teacher. Tonight, the sobering details about who called 911 first.
A second grade student called 911 to report a shooting had occurred at school. We'll let that soak in for a minute.
Now, Kellen told me about his experience waiting just down the road from the school in the reunification area for hours before he finally saw his kids.
I'm just so grateful for all the people that took this day, whatever their day started out with. They got a call and they decided we're going to step up and we're going to serve people that need it.
I'm just going to talk and we'll see how it goes. Yesterday there was another shooting at a school. This one way too close to home. For any of us as parents, it's always too close to home. But this was in my hometown. This one is at a school where I have friends with kids. And initially reported it was just a Christian school where I also have kids, but it wasn't our kids' school. So I thank all the friends and family from throughout the country that reached out in this difficult time to see if our kids were okay. I don't even pretend to have any perfect words, but God's calling me to be a voice in this manner. So I'm putting this video out there. This is unfathomable. I can't even say that word right now. For any parent, but particularly the parents that are affected. There's parents last night that didn't go to sleep with their kids. There was a teacher shot who was a mother of 3. There was a teenager that was also killed, and then the shooter killed. And then there's 6 people clinging to their lives as we speak in the hospitals. This is a dark topic across our country. It's a dark time in our history. I'm on our school's safety team. Our school is as prepared as it can be. And even so, this is a nightmare scenario because this was a student that came into the school that was supposed to be there. It wasn't an external threat. It's an internal threat. And so our prayers for these families, for our community, are needed. And what's been most disheartening and sickening of this, beyond the actual shooting, has been seeing yesterday, immediately, as news reports come out, people bashing and saying that thoughts and prayers don't work, that they're not needed, because they don't do anything. It's disgusting, and it's uncalled for. And it's selfish in your spot because you may not believe to tell believers that they shouldn't be praying for their loved ones and those that are affected. That is disgusting. And we do have a problem in our country. And immediately the left, including President Biden, puts out an immediate stance on gun control. What's really interesting about his statement yesterday was that there was no gun control talk after the CEO of United Healthcare was shot. In fact, on the left, there were celebrations of that murder. But I don't want to digress too much into that. I just find it interesting that the left is so obsessed with gun control that our kids are being used as pawns to further that agenda. I'm a business coach. I help with businesses and their leadership teams all day long. It's what I spend the vast majority of my time doing. And all businesses have issues. When we solve those issues, we get to the root cause. We don't address the symptoms. There's many symptoms, but solving the symptoms does not solve the issue. It only puts a Band-Aid on the issue. So same in this situation is, if we're going to get to the root cause to solve an issue, and we may have different paths, we may not have the same opinion on how to get there, but we got to focus on what is right, not who is right. Because I believe all parents, whether you're on the left or the right, deeply care about this issue. You deeply care about your kids and of the kids of this nation. Our youth is our future. To ignore it, to not care about it, would show that you're heartless and also ignorant. So we may have different paths, but we got to get to the root of the issue and not just focus on the symptoms. So immediately, the left is saying, it's the effing guns. Okay? We're the only country that has this problem. Yes, we're the only country that has the Second Amendment. And for those of you that lack clarity on the Second Amendment, it wasn't just to protect ourselves from other individuals. In fact, it was originally written to protect us from a tyrannical government. And that still holds true today. If we want to look at Australia during COVID, Australia took the guns away. And then they were locked in camps for disobeying COVID restrictions, for wanting to be outside, for not wanting to put an experimental vaccine in their body. Do we want that? If our government oversteps their bounds and gets too tyrannical, because if you're on the left or the right, it doesn't matter. We both can agree that we don't trust the government, the vast majority of us. So we got to think about that. So we leave all options in like the solution, we leave them all open, we leave it on the table. We have a discussion to actually solve this problem and help our kids. But it cannot be about the symptoms. If we ban the guns, if we take away all the guns, are we also going to take away the spoon that makes everyone fat? Are we also going to take away the pencil or the keyboard that bullies our youth? Because those are the instruments. The gun is an instrument. The spoon is an instrument. The keyboard is an instrument that causes harm. The root issue is people. The root issue is hate. The root issue is many different things that come down the path before they ever put an instrument in their hands. In this incident, 15-year-old girl. Now there's a manifesto floating out online, I've read it. We don't know that it's true yet or not, so I'm not going to speak to that. But if it is true, there is a lot of hate. And even if it's not true, to actually carry out an act like this is filled with hate. What we have right now is a system and a society without consequence, without thinking about the value of others' lives, the human life value. It's paramount. Every one of us has worth in this world. We're given a God-divine worth to our lives. And to think about others' lives being careless, so careless like that you could take someone else's life, is nothing but hate. So the root cause is getting back to love. It's to believing in something more. My personal belief is in God. That doesn't have to be yours, but God and the Christian values preach love, not hate. I think that's something that we can all get behind, whether or not you believe that Jesus was the Savior or not. That doesn't matter so much as the preaching of love. Now we have root causes that cause mental decline, whether you call it mental health, depression, anxiety, all this different stuff. There's root causes. Our kids are overprescribed. We have an obesity problem and a sugar problem and a poison in our foods problem that is causing over 50% of our youth to be morbidly obese. We have a music problem. We have a video game problem that are glorifying murder. There's a band that this shooter was evidently heavily a fan of, that also the Columbine shooters were heavily a fan of. So if you laugh at me and say the music isn't a problem, Why is there a correlation there? If you say that video games aren't a problem, but yet our society continues to degrade and lose that value of human life, why is that not on the table? If we want to say that it's not the food, it's not the poisons in our food, it's not the pharmaceuticals that are being overprescribed, why is that off the table when we continually see a mentally declining population in our youth? Suicides and suicide attempts are at an all-time high for our youth and our adults. What's the root cause? Regardless of this, every parent in Madison and many nationwide struggled with sleep last night. I know my wife and I did. We took our kids to school today. Flags at half mast here in Madison. The looks on other parents' faces, looking into their eyes, filled with fear. The looks on the teachers' faces as they're bravely showing up to do their jobs, also filled with fear. And that is a problem. They shouldn't have to go to work like that. Our kids shouldn't live in fear like that. And so we got to get to the root of the problem. I've had this solution for years. Let's talk about solutions. We also have a problem with 22 veterans dying by suicide a day. In fact, I started a foundation to help support and come alongside and help fix that problem. I believe that this could solve two problems by putting our veterans that are mission-driven in a position to be resource officers or some sort of protection at our schools. So I did some research. There's about 131,000 schools across our country. If we put 2 resource officers, got them trained appropriately, and let's say we paid them at a midpoint of 85 grand a year, that would give them better benefits, better pensions, better health insurance, keep them alive, keep them mission driven to protect our most valuable asset in our country, our youth, and hopefully prevent any of these things happening again. See, bad people look for soft targets. And what we've created in these gun-free zones and not protecting our schools are soft targets. What do we do with our politicians? What do we do with our courthouses? What do we do with our football games? We create barriers so that they're harder targets for evil people to do evil things. And yet we just let our schools be the softest target possible with our most precious assets, the things that we love the most, our families, our kids. It's unacceptable. And if we're actually going to meaningfully do something about that, we got to engage in this tough conversation and come to an actual solution that fixes the root cause. And this will take time, but there's an immediate act that we could do by putting our veterans to use. So we did some research on that. How many veterans exist? So just from Gulf War to now, there's about 8 million veterans. Based on that 131,000 schools, putting 2 resource officers at each, that'd be 262,000. That's a fraction of our veterans out there. Now I was talking to a friend and we were talking about a lot of companies, private companies do this, and there's volunteer people that would willingly sign up. So that's not even taking into account the people that would actually willingly sign up and volunteer to do this. If we paid them a healthy salary, it would cost us, and filled every position, max training, max benefits, max everything. It costs us less than $25 billion in the first year and about $22 billion nationwide every year after. And that's maxed out. Doing the right thing, protecting our most valuable asset. That's a fraction of our governmental budget. That wouldn't even be raising taxes. We just shift dollars from these stupid pet projects that our politicians put money into, or stop sending money overseas and invest it in our most important asset, our youth. It's a simple solution that would actually fix two problems. We gotta have real conversations. It may not be the exact solution, but it's a solution that fixes the root problem, or starts to fix the root problem. Or at least puts a bandage on the gaping hole or wound that we have as a country, and then we can address the obesity, the mental health, everything else that's going wrong with our kids and our system. These are the conversations we need to have. And I'll just wrap this up in saying that we may not know God's plan, but He does have one. People like to, especially non-believers, like to ask questions like, why would God allow this? Well, God gave us free will. He didn't want just everyone to be a follower and bow down by His feet unwillingly. He wanted us to make a choice. So evil does exist in this world, unfortunately. And I pray every day that nothing like this ever happens. I pray every day that parents never have to experience this pain. And now it's stricken our great community. And I do want to give a special shout out to the first responders. And I was really impressed with Police Chief Barnes yesterday here in Madison. How he responded, how his team responded, how he was able to answer questions with facts, not answer questions that he didn't have facts on, and just how he stood as a leader. The first responders did a tremendous job yesterday, and they deserve all the credit in helping save lives. And I pray for the healing of our community. I pray for the healing of our nation. Stop politicizing this matter, and let's get to a real solution. I'll leave it at that today.